In yesterday class, we studied about the chronology. Okay, we studied about the with chronology we studied types of globin that is expressed, and then today we will talk about the hemoglobin structure. Yesterday also we did some structure, but today we will go into the detail of structure and then how that structure is related to function. So we will compare hemoglobin, that is a multimeric protein, with myoglobin, that is a monomeric protein. How this tertiary structure and quaternary structure. Tertiary structure is monomeric and quaternary is multimeric. So how the changes in this structure influences its function. We will talk today about that. And then we will see oxygen dissociation curve, how that structural change, we will correlate that structural change with oxygen dissociation curve. If oxygen dissociation curve, you must have studied the curve only, but we will correlate that curve with the structure. So do you all understand the structure of this hemoglobin that we did yesterday? Tell me, anyone? So I will repeat this structure again. So this is a structure of, this is how hemoglobin is arranged. You can see this is a chain of amino acid, and chain of amino acid, that is, this is, you can see this is a one amino acid N, and this carbonyl carbon, this is alpha carbon, and this is carboxy carbon, and then with that there is side, there should be one hydrogen and side chain. This is glycine, that is why you can see this hydrogen. So this is one amino acid, this is second amino acid. So this is a primary structure made up of amino acids, chain of amino acids, like this chain of, this is basically chain of amino acid. So this chain of amino acid linked by peptide bond is called primary structure, and this primary structure will fold like this, and this is called secondary structure, and this is a specific type of secondary structure called alpha helix. So we will study about this in detail in MD2, but right now we will see this structure, how it folds in context of hemoglobin and myoglobin and hemoglobin. Now this alpha helix now fold on itself, so it is a monomeric tertiary structure, and this is tertiary structure. This monomeric protein, when more than one monomeric protein come together, it forms a multimeric protein. So you can see this is a secondary structure. You can see this, take this analogy, wire, telephone wire. You can see this folding of this alpha helix on itself from secondary, this tertiary structure. Okay, this is secondary structure, this is tertiary structure. When more than two or more than two, this secondary structure come together, this tertiary structure come together, this is called quaternary structure. Now hemoglobin correlates with this structure, and then myoglobin correlates with this structure. So you have to understand this too. Myoglobin is related to, myoglobin is monomer tertiary structure, and hemoglobin is quaternary structure, and this structure correlates very well with function. And if you can see, if you can remember, I have told you during enzyme chapter, I have told you there are two types of enzyme. One enzyme has this type of curve, hyperbolic curve, and second enzyme has this type of curve. So this is called sigmoid shaped curve. So I told you many monomeric enzymes are this type. So these are called allosteric enzyme, and this is called non-allosteric enzyme. Now here you can see this is a shot of myoglobin correlates with the curve of this hyperbolic curve, and here this multimeric hemoglobin correlates with the function of this, correlates with the sigmoid shaped curve. You must have seen in physiology, movement of this sigmoid shaped curve towards right and movement towards left. So towards right and then towards left. So right shift, some factor will cause right shift and left shift. This is This is how this this is the significance of the sigmoid shaped curve. Sigmoid shaped curve is flexible, and in enzyme, this inhibitor, allosteric regulator, allosteric inhibitor that we have seen, the product inhibitor will move this curve right, and the reactor that actually initiator that will reactant will shift this curve this side. So this is a type of curve that is valid in among all biochemistry, but we will specifically look at our hemoglobin and myoglobin context. So let's see the structure of hemoglobin. You see that I have told you the hemoglobin is a quaternary structure made up of 4 polypeptide chain, and you can see in this 4 polypeptides, in this 4 polypeptide subunits are there, and that is why this is called quaternary structure. And this polypeptide 2 alpha, you can see these are 2, there are 2 and 2. So 2 alpha are very similar structure. So 2 alpha and alpha, 2 alpha very similar structure, same protein. I have already also told you the gene origin. So alpha is originated for 16 number gene. You can see the same gene, same protein, 2 protein will form alpha 2, and same 2 protein that is originated from the gene that is present on 11 number chromosome is beta. So same 2 beta and same 2 alpha, this is from 2 dimer from tetramer. Okay, and at the center of this each polypeptide you can see is heme, this molecule. So this is this round circle, this is coin like structure is designation of this heme. Now heme is placed in the actually tightly inside the protein. It is not, as we see, it is not hollow, it is not exposed to water. It is actually tightly placed inside the pocket of this protein. It is not, water is not accessible for this. So remember, this is tightly placed into all side chains will cover this, and this is present between 2 protein chain. We will talk about that. So this is E and F arm, present between E and F arm, E and F arm. So we will see what is this E and F arm. This is also here E and F arm. So this is the structure of hemoglobin. Let's see first what is this heme. We have already done this. Heme is tetrapyrrole structure. Pyrrole is a pentane ring with 1 nitrogen, unsaturated pentane ring, you can see. So this second pyrrole ring come like this, third and fourth, they will polymerize actually. This polymerize and it will form a tetrapyrrole structure. At the end, there will be insertion of iron. So hemoglobin synthesis, so the heme synthesis also happens in the same fashion. You will see the heme synthesis happening in same fashion when we talk about heme synthesis. So this is the structure of heme. Now heme, you can see heme is bound with this 4 nitrogen, as you can see here, 4 nitrogen, that is a part of pyrrole ring. So this, but this heme iron, this ferrous iron had coordination, this valency of 6 valency. Now you can see this 2 valency has to yet combine with this, bind with this iron. So you can see two valency will be fulfilled by some other compound. So here is the slide in between. So this slide represents these are the heme proteins. So I have already discussed what is heme protein. Proteins which containing heme group are called heme protein. So this hemoglobin and myoglobin, we will study about hemoglobin and myoglobin in detail. These are heme protein, and in addition to this, there is a very important heme protein. I promised in last class. I promised you in last class that I would tell about this protein. This is a very important cytochrome. Cytochrome is a very important protein. This is called cytochrome 450 system. This cytochrome 450 system is a very important enzyme. I have actually also told you in cholesterol. So this enzyme is a function of this enzyme is hydroxylation of any compound. So hydroxylation of any compound. Those function, and this for cytochrome 450 is involved in drug metabolism. Drug metabolism. It is intracellular. These are all extracellular, but not extracellular. Actually, these are part of blood, but this is present in liver, in other tissue. So this cytochrome 450 is very important for drug metabolism and metabolism of a steroid compound. Steroid metabolism. Either it is synthesis of this steroid hormone, or it is so it is also involved in synthesis of bile, steroid hormone, and other cholesterol metabolism as well. So it is very important part of cholesterol metabolism and drug metabolism, and it is also very important part of bilirubin metabolism. So this is a very important enzyme system, a group of enzyme system that is designated with cytochrome 450. So this is a very important to heme, and just remember this also. And other two are peroxidases and catalases. You can remember this with this mnemonics: H and heme, HMP, heme protein, so hemoglobin, myoglobin, and peroxidases. At least you can remember. And this C and C catalase you will remember, and then so that you can remember almost all important heme protein in that way. So as I have told you, this heme is made of heme has this at the center. It is the ferrous or ferric iron, and this iron is bonded with this 4, but it has got six valency of 6. So 4 is satisfied, 4 is made, valency of 4 is made, but 2 valency will be fulfilled by the protein that actually in which this heme is bound. So one protein, in protein there will be histidine. So histidine will bind with this, 2 histidine will bind with this. We will see about that. Let's see, this is 4 nitrogen and 4 nitrogen heme is present at the center with this heme. 4 nitrogen will bind like this. You can see in red color, this nitrogen and iron will bind this iron. This nitrogen will bind this iron. You know, all nitrogen has lone pair of electron. With that lone pair of electron, it will bind to the iron. It will bind to the iron. Remember that. Now let's talk about myoglobin specifically. So myoglobin, from myoglobin we will understand the structure of hemoglobin also. So what happens in myoglobin is made up of about 150 amino acid chain. 150 amino acid. One myoglobin is made up of 150 amino acid. That amino acid actually is, you can see this amino acid are arranged like this. This amino acid are arranged like this. This amino acid are arranged in the number A to H. So this is A. You can see this is A. This is A. This is B. This limb is B. B segment. This is C segment. This is D segment. This is, sorry, small d is very smallest segment. Then this is E segment. This is F segment. This one. And this is G segment. And this is H segment. So this whole is H segment. So there are 8 segments. That is, folded segments are 8 segments. Now heme is present between this E. Heme is present between E and F. Heme, you can see this is heme is present between E and F. You can see this is a side chain of histidine. What histidine has this side chain? Let me write the side chain of histidine. This is histidine amino acid. This side chain, histidine has got this side chain. So this side chain, and you know what is amino? One is amino, and then other is acid. You write acid. This is amino acid, and this is side chain, and this is hydrogen. So this is the structure of, this is the side chain of histidine. You can see this is the side chain of histidine. This side chain histidine, you can see nitrogen is present here at the histidine, and this nitrogen will bind with this hydrogen. This, sorry, iron at the center with this iron. This nitrogen will bind to the iron that is present at the center of heme, and 2 histidine will bind this. Histidine of this E arm, this is called E7 histidine. Can you all see this? If you don't understand, let me know. Okay, I'll repeat it. So you can see this E7.
Sorry, on the notes, I see beta chain has similar structure like myoglobin. Is it that it has a similar structure like hemoglobin or like myoglobin?
Yes, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you this. So on this note, I will tell you what is this. So this is actually myoglobin. Let me explain about myoglobin, okay? Then I will tell you the difference. So there is little bit difference between the alpha and beta chain from this myoglobin structure. Actually, hemoglobin is basically four myoglobin like molecule arranged at one place. So I will explain that. First, let me explain this bond of this hemoglobin. How this heme is bound to this 2 chain. E7 is bonded with this here, with one of the E7 is bond will fill the 5th valency, and then F8 will fill the sixth valency. Now this F8 is very closer. So this is called proximal and this is called distal. And oxygen will bind here. Oxygen will bind here. At this place, oxygen will bind, not here. So oxygen will bind here. So we will see about this. Did you all understand at least the structure of this myoglobin? Tell me. Did you all understand? So 8 limbs are there. Yes?
Yes.
Heme is present between E and F. Heme is present between E and F. Fifth and sixth bond will be formed by this E7 and F8. F8 is proximal and E7 is distal. At E7, oxygen binds here. So you can see here. So this myoglobin is about 150 amino acid, and the function of myoglobin is to store oxygen. It is not for transportation. So this is a very basic difference between hemoglobin and myoglobin. Function of myoglobin is to store oxygen. Why? I will tell you. So function is to store oxygen, not transportation of oxygen, because it is present inside the cell of muscle. And I have told you the significance of this myoglobin also, myoglobinuria. If you can remember myoglobinuria, this myoglobin will appear in rhabdomyolysis. I have told you the disorders. First is AMCAT deficiency, and second is the side effect of statin. In such cases, you can see rhabdomyolysis and hemoglobinuria. And this myoglobinuria. Myoglobin is also very important marker for myocardial infarction. So it is appeared first in myocardial infarction. This is the significance, like diagnostic significance of myoglobin. So now let's see this difference between this myoglobin and hemoglobin. So hemoglobin, you can see hemoglobin has 2 beta chain. Hemoglobin has 2 beta chain, and then it has got 2 alpha chain. So this 2 alpha chain and 2 beta chain. Now this 2 alpha chain and 2 beta chain is very similar to this. Beta chain is almost similar to this myoglobin. It has got 146 amino acid. In myoglobin 143, a little bit less amino acid, 7 less amino, but it is very similar to. It also has the like arm up to A to H. All 8 arms are there. All 8 segments are there of this alpha helix folded. All 8 segments are present in beta chain also. But alpha chain differ from this. It has got 141 amino acids, and it lack this alpha chain lack this particular arm. Okay, that is the basic difference between alpha chain and this myoglobin. But beta chain is almost similar to this myoglobin. Alpha chain has only 7 segments. So did you understand this difference? Nadia, did you understand?
No, if you can go over it, that would be great.
You did not understand? What you did not understand?
Just the last part of it.
Oh, last part. So did you understand the whole structure of this myoglobin? You can see this myoglobin is made up of this 8 segment. This primary chain is folded into this alpha helix, and this alpha helix is folded into this type of segment. So this is 1 segment, this is 2nd segment, you can see this is 3rd segment, and this is 4th segment. Like that, it is folded in its own way. You can see the folding. So this is called A segment. This is A segment. This is P segment of myoglobin, and this is C segment of myoglobin. This is D segment, and this is E segment, and this is F segment. This is G segment, and this is H segment. So this is the structure of myoglobin, protein folding of myoglobin, a tertiary structure. And what is hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is basically collection of this 4 myoglobin molecule together like this. So this 4 myoglobin molecule combined together here. So this becomes hemoglobin. Here you will see 2 beta chain and 2 alpha chain. So beta is very similar to this. No differences. Only difference is little bit, there will be a difference in sequence of amino acid plus Here 153 amino acid, and here you will see 146 amino acid. But alpha is also very similar, but alpha lacks D ring, this T. Okay, so alpha lacks D ring, and then you can see all have the same place. In all of this alpha and beta, the position of this heme group will be at the same between E and F. And then amino acid that will actually join with this E7 in all and F8 in all. E7 and F8 will bind, and oxygen will bind at E7 region in all hemoglobin and myoglobin, all structure. So you can see here. So this is E7 and this is F8. Now E7 histidine, F8 is called proximal histidine. This is called proximal histidine because you can see this is more closer and it is tightly bound. So this is called proximal histidine, and this histidine is called distal histidine. And this is the place where oxygen comes and binds this iron. This is the place where oxygen comes and binds. Now you can see this two structure. Two are, and this heme is present between these two arms, and this is how you can see this fifth is satisfied by this. Therefore, is satisfied by this amino of pyrrole ring, and fifth bond is satisfied by this proximal histidine always, and sixth bond, in case of deoxygenated hemoglobin, this will satisfy this bond. In case of oxygenated hemoglobin, oxygen will come and replace this E7. So this is the difference between binding of oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin at E7 position, oxygen will bind. In deoxyhemoglobin, at this E7 will bind to this and satisfy sixth valence. So there are two choices here for this sixth valence, E7 and so these are the different terminology you can read yourself. Oxyhemoglobin is oxygen bound hemoglobin, deoxy is without oxygen. Methemoglobin is a hemoglobin. Sometimes when iron is oxidized to Fe3 ferric, this is called methemoglobin. It's unable to bind oxygen. Now carbonyl hemoglobin, when carbon monoxide binds to this is called carbonyl hemoglobin. Carbamino hemoglobin is the hemoglobin that bind carbon dioxide, that is deoxygenated hemoglobin. So carbaminoglobin, glycohemoglobin, you already know. What is this glycohemoglobin? HbA1c. What is the significance of HbA1c? Diabetes mellitus. So diagnosis of diabetes. Now you can see this is quaternary structure. So the structure of this heme, oxygenated heme and deoxygenated heme are little bit different. Okay, oxygenated heme and deoxygenated heme structure are little bit different. So this will give you a clue to other protein also. When something binds in other protein also, for example, in your receptor binding also. For example, G protein coupled receptor. If glucagon binds here, binding of glucagon will change the structure of this whole receptor, and because of this change in structure, there will be activation of G protein. So this is how you can see binding of oxygen will change the structure. This is called conformation change. So binding of hemoglobin binding of oxygen to this hemoglobin will cause conformation change. How does this conformation change happens? We will see that conformation change. Now this hemoglobin change, you can see alpha and 2 alpha and beta alpha structure. You can see this. This is alpha beta. They are joint attached with each other but strongly by hydrophobic interaction. So you know hydrophobic interaction we have done in lipid. So those amino acids which is insoluble in water come together and will bind this to alpha beta dimer. So alpha beta dimer formation will be predominantly because of this hydrophobic interaction. And this 2 dimer will come together. Let's say this is dimer will come together, and this 2 dimer will attach with each other by ionic bond, more with ionic bond. I will tell you what type of ionic bond is present here. So this ionic bond is called polar bond. So you can see here, this is deoxygenated hemoglobin, and you can see this alpha beta, they are bound by hydrophobic interaction here. very high amount of hydrophobic, though ionic interaction will also be there between alpha beta, but more important is hydrophobic interaction between alpha beta. And between this is one dimer, this is second dimer. Between these two dimer, ionic bond plays very important role. And you can see that when oxygen is added to this molecule, what will happen? Some ionic bond will be broken, and this will convert this oxygen. This is just remember, this is a taut form. This side is, you can see left side is taut form, and this will become, when oxygen binds, this will become a relaxed form. Taut form will become relaxed form. Did you understand? Just remember, you can do this activity. Taut form will become relaxed form after oxygen is bound. So you can see this oxygen binds and this becomes relaxed form. You can see this, you can understand this, their ionic bond will break and this will become a relaxed form here. So this is relaxed form. And ionic bond, you can see here 5, it is designated by 5, this red line, only 3 red line. So this is relaxed form. It has a little bit different structure as well as color. Color is also different. This color is bright red. And this, the color of this taut form of hemoglobin is about dark red. So this is there is a difference. That is why this type of hemoglobin is present in venous blood. That is why venous blood will look dark red, and this type of hemoglobin is present in arterial blood, and that is why arterial blood will look bright red. So this type of hemoglobin, so structural changes because of, there will be conformation changes because of binding of oxygen. And this, you can see, we will see this. Why this? What is this ionic bond? Let's see this. What are these ionic bond? Ionic bond is nothing but the interaction between this positively charged side chain of amino acid and negatively charged side chain of amino acid. So you can see in inorganic chemistry, sodium, between sodium and chloride, there will be attraction. Here, the positively charged side chain will interact with negatively charged side chain, positively with negative. That is called salt bridge. So here you can see ionic in bond, we call ionic bond. This is called salt bridge. So these are salt bridge. These are ionic polar bonds are called salt bridge. So there is salt bridge between this alpha beta dimer. This salt bridge will be broken when oxygen binds. That is what you have to remember. So now you can see how conformation changes because of this attachment of oxygen. You can see this is deoxyhemoglobin. So hem is little bit like this, tilted, so V-shaped. So oxygen is, iron is popped out. Iron is popped out of this hem structure. Now what happens is the electron configuration inside this iron is relaxed when it is not bound with the oxygen. As soon as oxygen binds here, so what we will do, oxygen will pushes the electronic configuration that is present around this, that make this iron size larger. So oxygen pushes this electron and force this electron to occupy a less space, and that is why you can see this iron size actually decreases at molecular level. When iron size decreases, this actually generally the iron that is present outside this crevices, this vacuum, it will fit into this space of this hem. You can see this, there is a space in hem, but this iron is outside, deoxygenated hemoglobin. So because of movement of this iron, what will happen? Because of movement of this iron, you can see, I will tell you. So this is because of movement of this iron by 4 picometer. You don't have to understand that much right now. I'm telling you the concept, just understand the concept, how conformation changes. Because of this movement of this iron, you can see this is previous deoxygenated. So because of movement of iron, you can see this will change to this, and because of movement of this like this, so this part of chain, this chain will be pulled like this. If this chain is pulled, so the whole molecule will little bit open up, become relaxed, and this because of changes in that structure, because of binding of oxygen, will actually bring about a change in a structure of whole hemoglobin. So this oxygen binding, this is how oxygen binding will bring about the changes in hemoglobin. Now alpha beta structure will move by 15 degree like this. You can see the axis of this alpha beta dimer here, they are superimposed, but they will move by 15 degrees. So this relaxed form is nothing but the alpha beta will become more relaxed. This is very taut and this is relaxed. So you can see the structural conformation. Just understand the concept. I will not ask question from this how structure changes. Just understand the concept. Anything binding in other molecule also, if some molecule interacts with other molecule, there will be conformation change. That is what I want you to understand here. And how conformation change happens, I have shown from this. So F1 helix, this is F1 helix, F helix. So F helix will pull down, and when it pull, you know that when something is pulled, this chain is this F, G is connected to F, so F will, GH will move, and then there will be relaxation of this chain, this one molecule. So you can see there will be shift in the axis of this alpha beta dimer with each other. 15-degree shift in axis will happen. So now, did you understand how this conformation changes because of binding of oxygen? Did you have an idea? Just okay. So did you have idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now you can see. So this is what I told you. So because of this binding of oxygen, the taut form will convert into relaxed form. Taut form will convert into relaxed form. So you can see relaxed form is oxyhemoglobin and taut form is deoxyhemoglobin. Remember this much for the time being. Now we compare this structure of oxygen binding with this myoglobin. So you can see in myoglobin the curve is hyperbolic, but in hemoglobin curve is sigmoid shape. This curve is sigmoid shape. Why is this sigmoid shape? Why is this sigmoid shape? Why not like this hyperbolic? Because myoglobin has only one protein. Okay, only one protein, and with this hem is present. So oxygen, when oxygen comes in contact with myoglobin, so there will not be any inhibition in binding. So with little bit of pressure, with little bit of partial pressure of oxygen, maybe within like 40 partial pressure of oxygen, the myoglobin will be completely saturated, 100% saturated within that 40 mmHg. But can you expect this 40 mmHg saturation will 40 mmHg of oxygen pressure will saturate this hemoglobin? No. Why does this happen? There is uninhibited binding here. So that is why you can see at this partial pressure of oxygen, at 20 partial pressure of oxygen, if you compare these two, you compare this hemoglobin, myoglobin, at 20, this hemoglobin in comparison to myoglobin release this much amount of oxygen. So you can see if 80 and then 20, you can see about 60% of oxygen, more oxygen will be given to the tissue by hemoglobin. And that is why, and at tissue level, the concentrated partial pressure of oxygen is between 20 to 40. That is why at tissue level, this hemoglobin is capable of releasing all its oxygen, but not myoglobin. And that is why myoglobin is a storage form. Oxygen is released only during when somebody does exercise. And during exercise, what happens? This partial pressure of oxygen falls very low, and at that time, what will happen? Myoglobin will release oxygen. So that is why myoglobin is a storage form of a storage molecule, and this hemoglobin is a transporter. Now, why does this phenomenon happens? Sigmoid shaped curve. This is because of a phenomenon called cooperative binding. So what does cooperative binding mean? Cooperative binding means there are 4 chains. There are 4 chains in hemoglobin. This alpha, you know, alpha, 2 alpha and 2 beta. So 2 alpha and 2 beta, this cooperative binding is the binding when one oxygen binds to one chain. And this first binding is very difficult. So first, because the hem is hidden, this hem molecule is hidden inside the creep, this pocket of this polypeptide of alpha or beta. This is very closely hidden, and once this oxygen reaches that cleft, one oxygen, then what happens is there will be sudden unfolding of a structure. and next oxygen addition will be easy. In other words, if I explain you what does cooperative binding means, cooperative, this one change, first this oxygen will make a friendship with one friend. This is a family of 4. First, one oxygen has to make friendship with one of the family member. Once it make friendship with this family member, this family member will help this oxygen to bind other family member also, to make friendship with other family member also. So first is difficult. This is called cooperative phenomenon. For example, you have in your family 4 members. So if you make a friendship with, if you, any of you, make friendship with either one girl or a boy. So what will happen? First, the friendship with you will be difficult. After he makes friendship with you, then friendship with other family member of yours will be easier. Friendship with with parents will be easier. This first step is difficult. So how it becomes easier? Because you will help him to make friendship with other. This is called family phenomenon. This is called cooperative phenomenon. So this is how the same type of phenomenon is present in multimeric protein, in hemoglobin. So first binding is difficult here. So once the binding of first oxygen to hemoglobin is difficult, and after it binds, so this binding enhances the binding of further O2 molecules. Okay, and this is called cooperative binding in an allosteric way. This is called allosteric effect. So binding of one will help others, an allosteric effect, and this is a type of cooperative binding. So did you understand difference between this? This cooperative binding is not present in myoglobin. It is only present in hemoglobin. That is why initial binding is difficult here. You can see this initial binding is difficult. That is why slope is very steep, not very steep. And then once it binds, oxygen binds one of the member, there will be a jump. And then after oxygen occupies all the members, then there will be a stagnation. So did you understand this sigmoid shaped curve, cooperative binding?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is sigmoid shaped curve and cooperative binding. Now let's talk about this right shift and left shift. You must have studied about this right shift and left shift in physiology also. But here I will give you a trick, a very important trick. You will understand this. So do one very funny thing. So one activity. This is your right hand. Okay. So when you move right hand like this, your right hand closes. When you bring this right hand towards left at the chest, it opens. So you will see, you will remember this thing. So right is tight, left is lax. Right is tight, left is lax. So this slogan will help you all. Right is tight, left is lax. Right is tight, left is lax. So right shift means a shift that will cause release of oxygen. Right shift means a shift that will cause a squeezing effect. So some component will come here and it will squeeze this hemoglobin, and it will, what does this do? This will make this hemoglobin convert into taut form. When it converts into taut form, it will cause release of oxygen into tissue. So it will lose the affinity for oxygen. When it converts into taut form, it will lose the affinity for oxygen. So you know, these are these factors are squeezer. These factors are squeezer. These factors are squeezer. These are squeezer. So in place of low pH, why don't we replace with high proton concentration? High proton concentration, so that we will have a vertical arrow everywhere. So temperature, 2-3 BPG, carbon dioxide, and high proton. These all 4 factors, these are squeezer. This will convert this relaxed form into taut form like this. This will squeeze. So these are a squeezer. And when concentration of this fall, so what will happen? This squeezer, when squeezer removes, this will convert into relaxed form. So did you understand this activity? Can you use this? Tell me. Can you use this trick? Right is tight, left is lax, right is tight, left is lax. Will you remember this technique and squeezer effect?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if you remember, if you can put this whole picture of this very difficult to understand concept in your imagination, and if you put that in your imagination, you will understand everything, you will memorize everything. So you can correlate with this. Right shift is correlated with what? Taut, T form of the hemoglobin. Right shift is correlated with T form of hemoglobin, and left shift is correlated with R form of hemoglobin. Left is lax. So which all component will convert this into taut form? These are the components that will convert this hemoglobin. So when this hemoglobin, oxygenated hemoglobin from this lungs will reach tissue. So that is how you can relate. Why I put here, this means to designate lungs. At lungs, when it comes at lungs, it becomes relaxed. Here at lungs is at left, so it becomes relaxed, and then it will go to the tissue here. So these are the squeezer. You know, at the tissue, carbon dioxide concentration is very high. pH is low. That means hydrogen concentration is very high. And then these two component will cause squeezing effect. This is called Bohr's effect. So these two will cause a squeezing effect on this. And because of squeezing effect, oxygen will be released at the tissue side, here at the peripheral. So at the left is right is tight, at the right side. So here you will see oxygen will be released. And again, from the tissue side, it will come here. It will come from the tissue side, it will come at the lungs. And lungs, there will become relaxed. Left is lax. So that is how you can see. Here at lung side, carbon dioxide is very less. And then hydrogen concentration is also less. That is why. So the opposite effect will happen here. Relaxation. So R and L. Now what I don't want to talk about much about these factors. I am more concerned about this condition. I am more concerned about this sickle cell anemia. You know, this sickle cell anemia, what happens? There is mutation in sickle cell anemia. There happens mutation in beta chain. Okay, beta chain. Because of beta chain, there will be a tendency to convert that hemoglobin into a taut form, and that is why in sickle cell anemia there is a tendency of hemoglobin dissociation curve to shift towards right. So this hemoglobin will have very less affinity for oxygen because it will polymerize. So we will talk about that. Because it will polymerize, it will have very less affinity for oxygen. So there is a right shift in case of sickle cell anemia. Hemoglobin curve shift towards right in case of sickle cell anemia. And this PBG in high altitude condition, this is a BPG, bisphosphoglycerate, will increase and it will cause shift of this oxygen dissociation curve into right. That means this is a squeezer. This will reduce the affinity for oxygen. And you know the lungs has very high capacity to bind with the oxygen. The lungs has about 100 mmHg. So oxygenation is not a problem. Always there will be dissociation of hemoglobin. Dissociation of oxygen from hemoglobin is a problem, and that is why this curve is called oxygen dissociation curve. Oxygenation rarely is a problem. Dissociation is a problem everywhere. So that is why dissociation is regulated. So you can see this two, PBG and then sickle cell. They will shift the curve towards right, and this hypothermia, low temperature, and then CO poisoning. Because CO poisoning, at place of oxygen, carbon monoxide will bind with the iron with very high affinity. At E7 position, carbon monoxide will bind. And you know, in hemoglobin, the power of carbon monoxide to bind with hemoglobin is about 250 times more than oxygen. And that is why when it binds carbon monoxide, it binds to this hemoglobin becomes relaxed. So this hemoglobin will convert into this form. And this form of hemoglobin is bright red. So let's see this three phenomena I will show you. You can see the sickle cell anemia. In absence of oxygen, it will polymerize and it will permanently This is called sickling phenomenon. It will permanently convert into a polymer form and a T form. Each are T form. T form means tense, means right. Right is tight, left is lax. So you can remember this sickle cell in anemia. The oxygen dissociation curve will shift towards right. Here in this PBG, PBG I do. Bisphosphoglycerate, BPG. In BPG will stabilize this T form. So BPG is a squeezer. Remember a squeezer. It will cause shift to right. Right is a squeezer. The right is tight. So it will make this hemoglobin tight. So you can see this BPG will try to bind, will fit into the cleft that is formed in deoxygenated hemoglobin. Deoxygenated hemoglobin will have cleft that will exactly equal to this BPG, bisphosphoglycerate. Tell me one thing, where this bisphosphoglycerate is synthesized? BPG is synthesized. 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate. So do you know where is 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate? Do you know about 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate? Anybody tell me?
From glycolytic pathway.
Okay, very good, very good. From 3-phosphoglycerate, 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde. 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde. 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is BPG is formed. 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. This is a glyceric acid. So oxidation will happen. NADH will be produced from NAD. Now this will convert into this. This particular molecule will convert into 2,3-BPG. So the molecule, when some molecule that converts, reposition the position of phosphate group, this enzyme that catalyze the conversion of molecule into one form to another form that has only reposition of phosphate, such enzyme are called mutase. So you can see bisphosphoglycerate mutase. This enzyme name is bisphosphoglycerate mutase. Now this will again, this compound will convert into 3-phosphoglycerate. So this compound will convert into 3-phosphate. Thereby you will see this will lose a capacity to a chance to form 1 ATP. Because of this, will lose a chance to form 1 ATP, because this is a phosphoglycerate step where ATP will be formed. So this phosphoglycerate kinase, PGK, this is a step where ATP synthesis will happen, and this, because of synthesis of 2,3-BPG, the RBC will lose the chance to form 1 ATP. And that is why last step become very important. Pyruvate kinase step become very important for synthesis of ATP. And therefore, in pyruvate kinase deficiency, what will happen? Hemolytic anemia. So I have already talked about this pyruvate kinase deficiency. And this picture also, if you can remember here. Can you remember this synthesis of? Did you understand the synthesis of this 1,2,3-bisphosphoglycerate from 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate? And in that process, it actually misses the chance of synthesis of 1 ATP. You can 2 ATP from 1 glucose. Did you understand this process of synthesis of 2,3-BPG? Tell me. Be quick.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now you can see here. So where this BPG is fit? Where does this BPG fit? I will tell you. So BPG can fit into this cleft of this deoxygenated hemoglobin only, not in oxygenated hemoglobin. And how does it fit? It fits by making this ionic bond. You can see here. So you can see negative charge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 oxygen are there. So this 8 oxygen will make 8 bond with this side chain of positive amino acid. You can see 4 histidine are there. 1, 2, 3, 4 histidine are there. 2 lysines are there. Lysine has long chain. This is lysine. This is positively charged. This 2 lysine. And 2 N-terminal amino. You can see this N-terminal amino. 1 and then other N-terminal amino is present somewhere. If I erase, I will know. 1 and this other N-terminal. 2 lysine here. 4 histidine here. So total 8 will actually form bond with this. And this bond formation requires a close approximation. And that close approximation is possible only in deoxyhemoglobin, but not in oxyhemoglobin. So this compound will try to stabilize this T form. And you know this. T form is right shift. T form is right shift. Right is tight. So that is why this 2,3-BPG shift oxygen dissociation curve to right. So you can see this. You can see the changes in oxygen. So this is deoxyhemoglobin. You can see deoxyhemoglobin has a cleft different from a larger. Actually, oxygen binding has, because this relapsed form will have a smaller curve. So this will have smaller cleft, and in that smaller cleft oxyhemoglobin, this cannot fit. The BPG cannot fit. Here, in larger cleft, BPG can fit. That is why this T form will be stabilized. Now you understood this. So this is the last concept. Let me talk about. So this carboxyhemoglobin is very important. So I have already told you about carbon monoxide poisoning in electron transport chain. This is a poison of electron transport chain also. I have told you there. It is also poison of this hemoglobin. It will also bind with hemoglobin permanently. See, this affinity of this carbon monoxide, you can see the structural similarity between carbon monoxide and oxygen. If you see the heme, if you place outside, out of the protein, this heme has 25,000 times more capacity to bind this carbon monoxide than oxygen. But in protein, it has got more than 200 times capacity to bind. It will bind with affinity more than 250 times in comparison to oxygen. And that is why this binding of this carbon monoxide with hemoglobin becomes irreversible type of binding, because oxygen easily cannot displace this. That is why only 100% oxygen can dissociate slowly. It will displace this carbon monoxide. That is why antidote is 100% oxygen. In carbon monoxide poisoning, you can see 100% oxygen saturation. Oxygen is given. Oxygen 100%. This is not antidote. Now you can see our pulse oximetry is a instrument that actually measure the color only of hemoglobin. So you can see the color of this oxygen bond hemoglobin and this color of this carbon monoxide bond hemoglobin will be bright red. And that is why in such condition, what will happen in carbon monoxide poisoning, this pulse oximeter will give a false reading. It will give a reading like this, your hemoglobin is 100% saturated, but it is not the case. This pulse oximetry is measuring color only, the color of this R form, and that is why pulse oximetry cannot be relied on for detecting carbon monoxide poisoning. And in place of pulse oximetry, we do arterial blood gas analysis. These are the drawback of pulse oximeter. So you can see, you can read yourself. Carbaminohemoglobin cannot be detected with pulse oximeter, and carboxyhemoglobin hypercapnia, methemoglobin cannot be detected by pulse oximetry. Rather, you take the blood, arterial blood from radial artery, and then you do a test called arterial blood gas analysis. This is called ABG, arterial blood gas and arterial arterial blood gas analysis. To find out carbon monoxide poisoning. So here you can find out carbon monoxide poisoning. So here you will see there is an electrode inside this instrument. You can feed this instrument will drink the blood, and then through the electrode the blood will pass, and there is an electrode that can detect oxygen. If there is this electrode cannot detect oxygen, means this oxygen is not there. So this is the ABG is the important method that you can use to separate this carbon monoxide poisoning from. You can detect carbon monoxide poisoning. Pulse oximeter is irrelevant, but during corona time, pulse oximeter, it is very important. So did you all understand? Did you all understand this right shift and left shift, mainly these three factors? Will you remember these three factors?
Yes, sir.
Just remember this. Right is tight, left is lax. Right is tight, left is lax. So two factors, hypothermia, here hypothermia and carbon monoxide poisoning will cause left shift, and these two factors, sickle cell and BPG, will cause right shift. So with this, I'll finish today's lecture.